Hello everyone. Let's learn Wenzhou and the World II, foreigners in Wenzhou together. We'll begin with the foreigners drifted to Wenzhou in ancient times. In this part, we'll get to know 1. Prince of Silla drifted to Wenzhou, and 2. Ryukyu people drifted to Wenzhou. Chapter Overview. In the alternate season of summer and autumn, typhoon blowing from the Pacific Ocean affect Wenzhou almost every year. It has been recorded in history many times that foreigners were blown by typhoon to Wenzhou due to heavy storms on the sea. Going south along Kun'ao Road in Pingyang County, there is a rose-red Sailor Prince temple at the foot of Xinluo Mountain, which enshrines a prince from Silla. There were 2 stories of the origin of the temple. One is that, in the Tang Dynasty, Prince Jin-yi of Silla led a fleet of ships and planned to cross the sea to serve as an official in the imperial court of the Tang Dynasty. Unfortunately, he encountered strong winds on the way, drifted to the Nanji waters of Pingyang, Wenzhou, and drowned. Then, Pingyang County Magistrate built a temple in memory of him. The other story is that in one summer of the Tang Dynasty, the king of Silla sent the prince for a visit. The prince encountered a typhoon on the way and was rescued by fishermen in the sea near Pingyang, Wenzhou. He was buried here after his death. 2. Ryukyu people drifted to Wenzhou. The Ryukyu kingdom is an ancient kingdom which had a close vassal relationship with China in the Ming and the Qing dynasties. In 1 year of the Yuan dynasty, around 1318, more than 60 people on the Ryukyu Islands headed to Southeast Asia for trade. However, the ship was destroyed by strong winds and floated to Wenzhou. They were rescued by local people and placed properly by local government. During the Qing dynasty, several similar incidents occurred. At around 1730, a Ryukyu grain ship was suddenly blown to Wenzhou by a hurricane on its way to Zhongshan, Guangdong. At that time, Zhejiang Governor Li Wei helped repair the ship, gave money, clothes, and arranged for someone to send them to Fujian province. In August of that year, Ryukyu envoys came to express gratefulness. From 1686 to 1874, 16 Ryukyu ships drifted to Wenzhou with a total of 306 people. Foreigners missionized in Wenzhou in modern times. Wenzhou is known as the Jerusalem of China. According to a survey, 14% of Wenzhou's population are Christians. This figure is well above the national average. The history of the development of Christianity in Wenzhou cannot be separated from that of one missionary, Su Huilian. Su Huilian, an Englishman born in 1861, came to Wenzhou in 1882 and left in 1907, having worked in Wenzhou for 25 years. As a missionary, Su Huilian decided to follow the example of Paul, a disciple of Jesus. To be a Jew with the Jews and a Greek with the Greeks. When he arrived in Wenzhou, he stayed with the Wenzhou people and behaved as a Wenzhou man. The first challenge he encountered in being a Wenzhou man was language. Many people believe that Wenzhouhua is one of the most difficult dialects to understand in China. In the 2015 NBC series Blind Spot, the Wenzhou dialect that baffles American translators is jokingly referred to as devil's language. After learning Wenzhou dialect from local pastors and people in his neighborhood, Su Huilian used the Latin letters to mark the pronunciation of Wenzhou dialect, and was able to preach in Wenzhouhua within just 6 months, and later even became an expert in the dialect. After conquering the language barrier, he soon found that most of the people in the city were busy with their livelihoods. For foreign missionaries, preaching in the big cities were not an easy task. During Su Huilian's 25 years in Wenzhou, rural missionary work was a very important part of his life. The church in Yueqing was the first seed he sowed in Wenzhou. In 1890, Su Huilian built a Gothic-style church with a capacity of 600 people in Yueqing, Hongqiao, Dongheng-jie. The churches he directly presided over include Yueqing Hongqiao Church, Yongjia Fenglin Church, Bilian Church, Wenzhou Chengxi Church, and Ruian Yahao Church. Among them, the Chengxi Church is the most magnificent and tallest architecture. Su Huilian was the first person to introduce Western medicine to Wenzhou. When preparing to be a missionary, he had been given simple medical training. This was a compulsory course for missionaries because at that time there was a big difference between the East and the West in terms of climate and soil. Missionaries from the West were more likely to get sick in the East. A little medical knowledge was the least they could do to help themselves. They could also take with them some common medicines, such as quinine and aspirin. When Su Huilian first arrived in Wenzhou, he relied on these medicines and his meager medical knowledge to treat common illnesses, such as malaria and colds, for those who came to listen to his sermon. Western medicine was more effective than traditional Chinese medicine, and therefore seemed very miraculous. In 1897, Su Huilian founded the Dingli Hospital, which was later incorporated into the Bailide Hospital, the best hospital in Wenzhou at that time, both in terms of size and equipment. This hospital was the predecessor of the present Wenzhou Second People's Hospital. In addition to founding a hospital, Su Huilian established a school in Wenzhou to popularize Western learning, and in 1897, he opened the Academy of Art and Literature. In 1935, on deathbed in his Oxford apartment, Su Huilian said to Guo Zixiong, a Chinese student, "A man may die, but a nation will not die, and the people of a nation will never be destroyed. A short period of foreign oppression is nothing in the long history. You should not be too pessimistic. Work hard and try to go forward." Foreigners come to Wenzhou today. As a pioneer in China's reform and opening area, and one of the first batch of 14 coastal cities opening to the outside world, Wenzhou is constantly exploring and enhancing cultural exchanges with foreign countries, deepening international cooperation and optimizing the business environment. With the development of Wenzhou's economy, more and more foreigners come to Wenzhou to study, work, and live. International students studying in Wenzhou come from more than 70 countries on 4 continents. They are interested in such majors: medicine, business Chinese, international trade, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, communications, and international law. Wang Han has studied in Wenzhou University and Wenzhou Medical University. When he was small, Wang Han watched a Chinese TV series, Journey to the West. The fantasy world in the play amazed little Wang Han. Later, he watched all the movies of Kung Fu stars such as Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. In the minds of the young Wang Han, Chinese were all good at martial arts. When he first came to Chashan, the residential areas and campus areas were under construction. Muddy lands and sheds everywhere made him feel that the university town of Wenzhou is not much different from the areas in Africa. However, in the past few years, he has witnessed the rise of tall buildings in Chashan town. From the business center to the Mixi shopping mall, various complexes continue to be built and developed. Mobile payment has been popularized. You can travel with no cash. During the years of studying in Wenzhou, Wang Han established a deep relationship with many Wenzhou friends and witnessed the earth-shaking changes in Wenzhou. When he first arrived in Wenzhou in 2012, he felt the prejudice caused by cultural barriers. As more and more foreigners come to Wenzhou to study, those surprises and prejudices have disappeared. Wang Han has regarded Wenzhou as his second hometown and intends to establish an agency that will help the people of Wenzhou and China to communicate with each other, such as traveling, studying, and doing business. He hopes to use his own efforts to build a bridge between the two countries and make his two hometowns more closely connected. In November 2010, 19-year-old Ai Pengda was admitted to the clinical medicine major of Wenzhou Medical University. In 2016, Da began to study in hepatobiliary surgery at Wenzhou Medical University. In addition to learning professional knowledge, Ada, who is quite talented in music and in acting, has succeeded in carving out a career out of his interest in Wenzhou. In 2014, Ada participated in the sitcom Learn Wenzhou Dialect with Me, produced by Wenzhou Daily Newspaper Group. He played the role of Niu Sanjin in one episode. Once the episode was launched, he received more than 150,000 web hits in less than a day. Ada has become an internet celebrity for the role of Niu Sanjin. In January 2020, when the pandemic in Wuhan affected many areas in China, Ada was at the pandemic prevention checkpoint in Chashan Street to measure the body temperature of people entering and exiting. At night, he wrote lyrics and recorded an anti-pandemic song, Ada Fights the Pandemic, to support Wuhan and convey the confidence of victory in the fight against the pandemic. Until now, we have learned foreigners drifted to Wenzhou in ancient times. Foreigner who was a missionary in Wenzhou in modern times, and several international students furthering their studies in Wenzhou. Let's go through the words we need to learn today. Typhoon, 台风, the Pacific Ocean, 太平洋, temple, 观或者庙, island, 岛, hurricane, 飓风, Christianity, 基督教, missionary, 传教士, church, 教堂, medicine, 医学, traditional Chinese medicine, 中医中药, Western medicine, 西医西药, hospital, 医院, school, 学堂，今天我们叫学校， coastal, 沿海， continent, 洲， major, 专业，功夫，功夫， university town, 大学城， mobile payment, 手机支付， cash, 现金， agency, 中介公司， pandemic, 疫情， internet celebrity, 网红。Today's lesson is over. Thank you. See you later.